So the RDR process, as you know, we published our Phase I timelines and Phase I thinking, including some thinking on advisor categorization in November 2014. In December, we published the timelines for the long-term thinking, which is Phase II and Phase III. And we are still very much on track in terms of the timelines we put down for Phase I. So in Phase I, we said we want to have these 14 proposals that are dealt with under Phase I implemented by July. But I want to make it clear that implementation doesn't mean implementation of everything by the industry. It means that the law is written and the law is promulgated and passed, or the directives have been issued. We will still, in those, go through another period of consultation before July, and when we publish the regulations, we will then state at what date it will be of force and effect to give the industry time to adapt. What will we see coming out in July? Okay, so there's 14 proposals. There will be proposals, the ones we put under the binder regulations and the outsource regulations will be in place by July, if all goes well. There will be additional governance procedures and replacements, for example, because the removal of commissions on replacements will be to a later date. There will be the amendments to the equivalence of award. There will be amendments to the Section 8.5 fees, and those amendments will be around ensuring that the 8.5 fee, the customer is aware of what the fee is for, consents to it, and is allowed to cancel at any time, much in line with what the advice fees will look like in the future. I'm trying to rack my brains as to the other ones. And there will be some amendments to the insurance laws around tied agencies or tied agent firms agreeing that their advisors can sell another insurance product. It's very specific to life risk products. So generally those are the big issues. Everything we do is aligned with Twin Peaks. When you say dependent upon Twin Peaks, not necessarily. The Phase II regulations and requirements are much more dependent on Twin Peaks, because we use the FSR bill to make some of the legislative amendments, and Phase III is dependent on the Conduct of Financial Institutions Act, where we make the legislative amendments for Phase III. So the RDR will affect the short-term industry quite specifically in terms of Phase I and partly in terms of Phase II. So if we look at the South African insurance industry, and this is a concern that's been raised by the brokers, for example, recently, is that other RDR in other countries didn't look at short-term risk, whereas we are looking at short-term risk. And we've always said under RDR that our RDR is not a cut and paste of other regulatory environments. Our RDR will be specific to South Africa and unique to South African risks. And one of the things that's unique to South Africa is how much outsourcing of both administration and binding that happens in the short-term sector. So the binder and the outsourcing in the short-term sector will be specifically dealt with under RDR. And there's still some consultation underway in terms of those binders, but I think the principles that the short-term industry has approved of is that outsourcing of administration or binding should happen in a properly governed manner. It should happen in a way that the insurer has oversight over its business, and that there is a data integration to allow the insurer to understand who its customers are and what its risks are. We also have identified that where binder fees are paid, this sometimes raises conflict in terms of placement of business, so there is a proposal to introduce some caps on binder fees. Now that has a specific impact on the short-term sector. With regards to the other issues, the 8.5B fee is impacts directly on the short-term industry, and I've discussed how that will be dealt with. And the other issue for the short-term industry is under Phase II is how short-term commissions should be adapted for the fact that we're taking advice out of commission and putting it into advice fees. Our initial proposal would have 3 categories of advisor: a tied advisor, a multi-tied advisor, and an independent advisor. But the language that we were using was creating confusion not only with the industry, but we realized it would also create confusion with the customer. A multi-tied advisor, for example, would have no meaning for the customer. We also said that the designation of product category or advisor category would come on the basis of whether there was any product supply influence, and also how many product suppliers they were enabled to give advice to or sell products for. The feedback has come back to say the most important thing that may influence a broker's behavior when giving advice is product supply influence, not how many product categories they can sell. So we've abandoned the product range and said that we will look only at product supply influence. In the same way, we've also suggested in the latest proposals that we look at two categories of advisor. One is tied, and the other is not independent, because you mustn't get confusion around the word, but an independently licensed financial service provider. So a tied advisor would be a product supply agent and work for a product supplier under their license, and everybody else would fall under a separately licensed financial service provider. What we have said is those are licensing categories. And in terms of those licensing categories, we would still look at what conflicts of interest exist on those licensing categories, such as product supplier ownership, product supplier contracting, and binder regulations. We'll manage those under Phase 1 and 2 and 3. But we've also said that if those influences exist, that advisor may not use the word independent in its communications to customers. So we agree that it's not only difficult, it's probably impossible to eliminate all conflicts, but we believe that some conflicts you can eliminate. Where you can't eliminate them, you should manage them, and that they should be disclosed. And we believe that there's certain conflicts in the industry that are worth prohibiting and others that are worth managing. I do. I think that there's been some press releases lately that are a little alarmist and have created some anxiety in the broker fraternity. I want to re-emphasize the message that RDR is about the sustainability of advice and therefore the sustainability of the advisor. It's not about reducing broker income. It's ensuring that brokers' income is sustainable in the long term and that they're paid appropriately by those that they're rendering services for. Now, if we look at binder fees, for example, where a lot of the anxiety has arisen, a lot of brokers have perceived this as the FSB taking away their right to earn admin fees. We have to take a step up and look about where binder fees are in the best interest of the customer and the best interest of the industry as a whole. And if a broker comes to us and says, I need 10% binder fees, otherwise I can't do the job, we're going to ask, that 10% binder fee that you're earning, is it efficient in terms of outsourcing from the insurer, or they're also incurring costs for that outsourced function? Does it add costs to the customer? Does it add value to the customer? So to come and see us with a parochial approach of this is what I need and this is what I must earn, without looking at the entire value chain, is where we are currently. So we now set up a team to go and assess the industry to see what these binder caps should be, how they are cost effective to the customer, how they're properly governed, how they're overseen, and how outsourcing is efficient, not just for the customer but for the broker. But in the past, there has been almost wholesale outsourcing, and without the oversight and without the governance, and there will be some impact on the binders. There will be some brokers who will not be able to get binders because there'll be a lot more focus on the product supply in terms of them assessing their mind as to whether a binder should be given or not. But it is not the aim of RDR to reduce broker income. It's the aim of RDR to make sure the broker's income is sustainable and that the people who are paying the broker are the right people. So the customer is paying for what the customer gets and the insurer is paying for what the insurer gets.